You're listening to The Girl Dad Show.
Welcome to Season 3 of The Girl Dad Show, where we explore the intersection of parenthood and entrepreneurial spirit. Join me and some incredible guests as we share tips and tricks for finding work-life balance and making a positive impact not only on the world, but also our families. Let's create a fulfilling life together. It's The Girl Dad Show, Season 3. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Girl Dad Show. Today, I have John Fong with me, and he is a illustrious finance executive, most recently at Numinous, taking them from bootstrap to IPO and then walking them through amazing acquisitions and getting them set up for great success in the future. He has recently embarked on his own journey in his professional journey, becoming his own boss and offering fractional financial services to startups to help other companies do the same thing that he was able just to do throughout his career. John, thank you so much for taking the time to join me on the show. I'm excited to talk to you.
No problem. Thanks, Young. I'm really excited about this too.
Yeah, I'm sure there's more to what I just said. Do you mind walking me through a little bit about Numinous here? What does Numinous do and how did you get into that? And how the heck did you take a company public in 1 year?
I joined Numinous back in 2019. I was introduced to their founder, Peyton Nyquist. He had bootstrapped a small clinic acquisition here in Vancouver, and he was looking to raise a little bit of money. So which is where I came in as a fractional CFO advisor. A little advisory became quite a lot, and I joined the full time in January 2020. And then from there, it just so happened that there was an opportunity to go public through an RTO, and we did that right in the midst of COVID. So we went public in 2020. There wasn't really a plan to go public, but the opportunity just came up. There was a little bit of fundraising involved with that. Mm-hmm. So we went through that path, and it was like going through a very intense MBA, real life MBA. So going through that, building a really great company, just trying to deliver these therapies to people that are really needed, especially during COVID. So
So then you were already doing fractional financial services, or were you?
A little bit. Yeah. A little bit. Yeah. So prior to Numinous, I worked at a couple of different companies, more in the technology space. I was the managing director of a product design company called Invoke. That gave me a little bit of spare time to take on these small projects on the side. Yeah. And that's where it sort of came about. So it wasn't really like a full-time fractional thing, but it was just sort of dabbling.
You were advising, and kind of sounds like more than anything. And then the opportunity presented itself to be like, hey, this requires a lot more heavy lifting.
Yes.
That's a fascinating turn of events. So did COVID spark that opportunity to go public, or what sparked the RTO? Yeah.
It was just through Peyton's network that there was an opportunity to raise significantly more money than he had originally wanted to raise, and it was just through there. The opportunity was there. And again, if someone is giving you money to build a company, especially during COVID when there's so many unknowns, you kind of take it. You take it.
That's right. Yeah, that was an interesting time, wasn't it? It was a very, very hectic time.
I know. I mean, I look back at it, and it was a scary time because there's so many unknowns.
Right.
But for me, personally, it was part of it was a good time because I got to spend so much time with my family and kids, which I didn't have before when you're just working 12, 13 hours a day.
Were you in the office a lot before the pandemic? Or?
Yeah. In the office a lot, traveled quite a bit for work. And with everything shut down, it's just sort of, you're forced into spending time with your family. Some people didn't enjoy it, but I enjoyed it.
Tell me about that. What was the best part of it? Did you learn more about your kids? Did they know more about what you do?
Yeah. I mean, they were there when I'm taking meetings, and they sort of hear what I'm doing. And at the same time for me to sit in on their Zoom classes, seeing how they interact with their teachers and so forth. You normally don't see that, right?
Yeah.
You sort of just pick them up from school or drop them off from school, but that interaction with their teachers is kind of, you don't see that. So that was interesting to see.
That is awesome. So it's almost like they became, how they say like, it's great to have like in-office work because there's like context and culture you create from just being around each other.
Yes.
Your family essentially became your new coworkers.
Exactly. And I have some pictures that I took, during the summer. I was working out on our balcony, and my daughter and son is in the same table. They're doing their homework and stuff, and I'm doing work. And like, I never really had that.
Yeah, you're bonding through your activities. That's really cool because they're doing their schoolwork and you're working, but you're all doing it together like your coworkers.
Yes, exactly.
I'm assuming your kids are older than, how old are they?
Our son is 14 and our daughter just turned 10 today.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah, thanks. So it's been a really good experience. And I think just, for our son, he's a teenager now, which just sort of still blows my mind. And it's been interesting to see him sort of start to grow into a young man.
Yeah, seriously, 14. Yeah, he's definitely figuring himself out a lot.
Yes.
So he understands what you do then, would you say?
He understands what I do.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is, I don't know if it's like a CFO thing or anything, but last Christmas I gave him a book about budgeting.
I love it.
and I have this book in the back called The Psychology of Money. And I showed it to him as well. I said, hey, you should read this as well because, maybe you might not want to spend, a couple $100 on like video games or a transformer or whatever.
Yeah.
So she read a little bit about it.
You're trying to teach them the concepts of money so that you can make him really want that toy that he wants.
Yes.
Oh,
or at least delay the gratification of buying something.
Got it. Is that something that you're trying to instill? Is that like a core value that you want to instill?
It is. I mean, it's hard because, when they were younger, we'd want to buy them everything.
Yeah.
But, as they get older, we want to try to sort of pull that back a bit and limit that a bit and, put a little bit of, make them feel like that they're earning it as opposed to just, handing out a hand and saying, buy this for me, Dad.
That's right. I'm really struggling with that part. I will say that, especially with my youngest daughter, I am just I'm just helpless. Like they literally push and then I give in and I just buy them whatever they want. And it's terrible. Yeah, it's really bad.
know. I mean, I was certainly guilty of that. My family and I, we immigrated to Canada back in the 70s. We came here with nothing. And we lived it's not like we lived a very wealthy life afterwards. We were, like middle class family. We didn't have a lot. We'd made do with what we had. And, going through that experience, I wanted to give more to my kids. So of course, when they were younger, you'd buy, I'll buy them this or that, this and that. But, as they got older, it's not a good habit to build into them.
Yeah, totally agree. I definitely agree with that. I think that there's like a very big danger in just like making them think that everything is easy, right? Because you're not preparing them for the realities of the world if you keep fostering that. So I agree, and I openly admit it. I think it's a huge problem that I have, and I'm trying actively to solve it. My wife is always berating me about it. Like, you gotta have some discipline, get a backbone, like push back and say no. And she's pretty good at it. I'm still working on it. So I gotta get some more advice from you on how you're able to navigate that.
I think with my son it's harder because when he was like 10 or 11, he started liking the toys that I loved when I was a kid, like Star Wars, G.I. Joe's, Legos. So I would purposely try to buy something for him, but I enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, you're like riling him up. This is amazing.
I know. Yes. Yeah. You need this. You need this.
That's awesome. But talk to me a little bit about your parents. So, what made them immigrate over here? And do you have siblings? How was that? What was that reasoning?
Yeah. So, my parents, they're great. Back in Hong Kong, my mom was a school teacher. My dad had his own printing business. They were quite, relatively successful. But I guess they sort of looked far ahead into, what does this world look like? Back in the 70s, they knew that British rule was going to end in Hong Kong in 96. So they knew that, things were going to change. And at that time, I think the relationship between Hong Kong and China was just not good.
Yeah.
at that time. And also my mom, since my mom was a school teacher, I mean, she was a great school teacher. Even after she immigrated here to Canada and so forth, her old students would reach out to her and say, hey, I'm coming to Vancouver. Let's go out for dim sum or something.
That's awesome.
But even at that time, she knew that the school system there was just like very, very tough. And they're just, cranking out, kids and so forth into trying to be like A students. So the pressure on kids was just phenomenal there. Or maybe not phenomenal, but it's just like not good for their mental health. And my mom had some of her siblings that immigrated to North America. So they were telling her, hey, it's great, you should come here and so forth. So that was sort of like the driving force of that. They just wanted to move to a place where my brothers and I have two older brothers, that we can have a better life.
And do you feel like that was instilled in you from the beginning? Like just this concept of like sacrifice for a better life?
Yeah. I mean, I'd look back at my old pictures in Hong Kong. I was like 4 years old at the time when we immigrated. But, there was this one picture that I was in a private school uniform in a class, and I had, I like 3 or 4 birthday cakes in front of me.
Oh, wow. So just pure like excessiveness.
Yeah. And I go, wow, and I don't remember anything, like I don't remember too much about it.
Yeah.
But again, coming into here, we didn't have anything. We had, I don't know, like 10 or 15 suitcases, and that's all we had. And we brought my mom's piano.
Oh, wow. Wait, why'd you bring the piano?
She, that was something that she really loved, and she worked and saved a lot in order to buy that piano. So it's like the sentimental thing. And she wanted my brothers and I to learn piano. Both my brothers, they said, no, I don't want to learn piano. So it just came to me. Yeah.
That's really interesting that like, no matter how much success you have, there are certain things that are just like driven by emotions, and you can't like alter that.
Yeah.
Even as illogical as it may sound, because there's pianos here,
Yeah.
but it had a lot of sentimental
exactly.
value. That's very unique.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. So just switching gears, why go into business for yourself now? It sounds like your kids are, teenagers. They're starting to understand what they want to do, and like, it sounds like they kind of need a lot more of your attention as they start to head into college and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, like talk to me about this.
Yeah. So I guess a couple things.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'll just focus on the past 4 years at Numinous. Professionally, it was great. I had a lot of great experience. Like I said, taking from bootstrap to IPO, raise money, do acquisitions. It kind of like checked the boxes professionally for a lot of, I guess, CFO finance people.
Yeah, totally. I would say that it checks off all the boxes, actually. It's a very successful career. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was great. But, I guess on the personal side is that, doing all that, I was working 12, 13 hours a day. Wasn't spending a lot of time with family, or even when I was with them, your mind just doesn't turn off when you're working that intensely, and, getting messages and so forth.
Right.
Outside of work hours wasn't great. On the personal side, every COVID, everybody went through, certain not good things about COVID. In 2021, my mom passed away after 2 years of battling colon cancer. 2022, my dad passed away because of kidney failure, and probably also because of him by himself. And then in 2023, my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer. So, so going through, all the professional accolades is great, but, personally, and also, for me turning 50, there's all these life things that happen that just really made me question, what am I doing with my time?
Yeah.
Should I really be, how am I investing that time? And, leading up to that, as a husband and as a father, for me, the definition of providing for my family is, trying to provide financial stability.
That's
so
right.
That means work hard, try to make as much money as I can, so that, my family has a house to live in, college is taken care of, and so forth. But that comes at a cost of everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, talking about, my parents and so forth, when you're faced with mortality and turning 50, that was one of the questions that I was sort of facing. It's like, geez, what's next?
Yeah.
And, I just figured that, I just needed time away from that 12, 13 hour grind. Now, the vision and mission of Numinous is great. It was something that's very close to me. Building something from the ground up to where it was amazing. But, time with family is you can't buy that back. And, you mentioned that, my son's going to, a couple more years left in the college and so forth. I see that, I only have 3 years left with my son before he's off.
Yeah.
I've invested all this time into work and not enough in the family. And now I want to just take that back. So which is why, starting this business by myself, hopefully it'll allow me to do that. Help me to prioritize my own work time, my own schedule and so forth. And then everything else is just being able to drive the kids to school or just having time with them.
Yeah, that's a really powerful statement. And I think it's absolutely accurate. The incredible thing is that you just forget how fast things move, as you get older and you get into the road of success, right? You're trying to build for success. You're trying to climb the corporate ladder, notch these skills and earn these notches. And then you forget how unevenly you're distributing your time debits into all these different buckets, because you start seeing this thing and you want to jump on the opportunity to grab it. And then I think this is obviously a little bit stereotypical, but for fathers specifically, I think you hit it on the head. The primary thing that we're expected of is to do financial support, right? Like bring in, financial security. And so it adds another level of pressure to, dump more debits into that bucket. Yeah. And it's fascinating that, that you were able to kind of poke your head up in the pinnacle of your, financial and career success to look at it and kind of reassess and readjust it. It's a very fascinating thing that you're doing. And I'm really sorry to hear about your loss. That's really incredible for you to be so thoughtful and serene, back to back like that, losing two parents, and just have that ability to kind of navigate through all of those things, because you continue to drive that company to success even during those hardships.
I really couldn't have done that without great team members at Numinous. They were all very supportive. They told me, just slow down, take time away, do what you need to do. So again, I think without that support, that'd be very difficult for anyone to navigate.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And then another question I have around this concept of switching gears and trying to deposit into a new life era is, does your son and daughter now know what you're doing? Do they understand the risk factor of you leaving a secure CFO position to go do this on your? Do they understand this? Do they understand the good and the bad of this?
They don't understand the financial risk there. I think when I left Numinous, they all asked why and so forth, and I told them, I just needed to spend time with taking care of the family. So, financially, things didn't change too much. I think my parents had taught me well that you should just save money. It doesn't have to be a reason. It could be a rainy day or whatnot, but just save as much as you can. And I think because of that, I was able to sort of step away and not have a big financial risk involved. But again, but I did tell them, now that Dad's moved away from Numinous, I think we have to watch our spending a bit. So just just little lessons like that. But they certainly don't understand the risk that Dad has zero income coming in.
That's interesting. And then the wife, what does she think about this, and how is she holding up and doing?
She's doing great, thanks. She went through her treatment. She's on her way to recovery. So
fantastic.
So that was great. But
Great.
again, I think just being there helped make a big difference. Now, with I think for us, or for me, with any career change, she has to be in the know, and she has to have a voice in that, because it impacts her as well. So, we talk through it and making sure that, she's okay, the family will be okay. And, we're able to make this change, or I guess I can make this change.
Yeah. And so you guys are totally bought into this concept of changing the value prop and the focus of the family.
Yeah, exactly. And I think she understood that, the past 4 years was tough for all of us. And for me, not being as involved or hands-on in the family, that impacted her. She had to do everything else in the household and work a full-time job. When I had to travel, she had the kids full-time and so forth. So, she felt the pressure that, I needed to step up and do more as well.
Mm-hmm.
And going down this path certainly allows me to do that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so as you think about like what success looks like for you when you turn this new chapter and direction of your life, what would you say it is? What would success look like for you when you're 60 years old and you've passed the decade chapter and you're looking back at your 50s?
Oh, geez, that's that sounds depressing, because it gets me closer to death. But again, I mean, it's, I do think about that as well. Is that, what does success mean for me? I think, as, success would be defined, from maybe the business standpoint. If I can just, do good work for a client, for my, current or and future clients, that if they're able to achieve what they want to achieve, or similar to things that I did help Numinous with. And for me to be able to do that, that I don't have to work like 40 or 50 or 60 hours a week, and be able to generate a meaningful profit.
Mm-hmm.
I think the profit piece is, a lot of companies maybe don't feel comfortable talking about that, because it seems like when you talk about profit, it seems like a bad word. But again, I don't want to just make a business and just generate enough. I want to generate a meaningful profit that I can take care of my family and kids and so forth. On the personal side, I can have enough time with my kids before they go off to college.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, these next few years, I can help build that relationship with them, that when whatever they do, whether it's college or whatnot, they can see that, Dad made a sacrifice for the family.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, something that's meaningful.
Do you have this similar relationship with your parents, or did they make similar calls, or is this something that's new to you and revelationary because of, the death of your parents?
It's certainly something new. I think the passing of my parents and me turning 50, and I guess, the theme around that is just facing mortality. I did so much in my life. I lived a good life up to this point. And, again, what's next for me? What is the next? I joke about, when you said turning 60, but that's like 10 good years left. And then it's kind of like, on a decline a little bit.
Yeah.
So, what impact do I want to make with these next 10 years in my life?
Yeah.
And not look back and regret. But also, losing both my parents, I realized that, I've lost an identity in myself. I'm not a son anymore.
Oh, wow.
And with that loss of identity, what's next?
Mm.
What other things am I going to lose? So, yeah. So just wanted to make a change and trying to capture as much as I can. That's meaningful to me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love it. I think that that's a really great way to look at it. And I mean, I just to be fully transparent and vulnerable here as well. I have like tried to figure out ways, and I haven't done a good job at it at all this year. So I'm feeling very guilty having this conversation with you. But I started counting down how many times I would theoretically see my dad if I estimated when I think he was going to pass. And I did this like morbid activity, and it's like so crazy sad, and it's like so ridiculous. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to go visit my parents at least twice a year because just the amount of times that I'm going to potentially see him based on his health, his age, and all that stuff. I'm like, oh, it's just not a big number.
Yeah.
And I honestly completely forgot that I made that goal for myself this year, and I'm only going to see him once this year, right? And so I feel really guilty talking to you about it, but it is something that is super, super important to think about because I feel like if you don't think about it, you will end up like working your brains out to not have a good realization of like, you know, the stuff that you want to do with that success. And I don't know why we don't talk about it more because I feel like we've evolved so much as a human society and we haven't evolved on this part of it, or at least talk about it more about like the time spent after, you know, making money and working is just like, is like so mundane and almost negative, to be honest with you.
Right. Yeah.
It's one of the main reasons why I started consulting. So, I mean, I know I'm your junior in age, and I'll be happy to say that to you. I'm 43, so I'm not that far behind you. But I will say that it's fun to hear you talk about your journey and why you're doing it, because it is literally the same reason I started consulting.
Yeah.
It is literally the same reason. Yeah. This episode of The Girl Dad Show is brought to you by Owners Club. As a business owner myself, I know firsthand how challenging the journey can be. Whether it's having someone that I can ask a very tactical question to, or just being able to share my big successes without guilt. Building a business is a lonely journey, and it does not have to be. After building and coaching dozens of businesses to success, there is one insight that is so obvious and simple, yet hard to execute. And that is network equals net worth. And so if you're a growth-minded, supportive, smart, and hardworking business owner looking for a community of like-minded entrepreneurs to build with, look no further than the Owners Club. You will make lifelong friends and build your business that works for you. You can learn more online at owners.club.
And again, it's never too late.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 50 and I'm just like kind of starting over again.
Yeah.
But, you know, I look at it, I was talking with a friend recently about this, and we were just saying that, you know, if I hadn't invested all that time building my career, I wouldn't have been able to make this leap and start my own company. So it's kind of,
agree.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, you know, nothing's free in this world, right? You got to put in an enormous amount of work to be able to take advantage of that and leverage it into something in the future.
Absolutely. Like the reality is, if I didn't have invested time to learn hard skills that were valuable, there's no way I'd be able to do consulting.
Yeah.
I mean, there is, but not successfully to the level that I want to provide value and be known for, right? Like,
yes,
there's just like exactly what you said, like nothing's for free. You have to make these deposits. And I guess what I'm talking about is more like the conscious effort of like spending more time thinking like you're thinking right now about like where you want to bucket those times is so like untalked about. Like we don't, I don't know, maybe more people talk about it. I
mean, it's tough because, you know, it's something that is in the future.
Yeah.
And is not really immediate. Whereas I think for me, you know, like things were happening like right in front of me, like my mom passing away, my dad passing away. So those things were just like coming at me. Yeah. And there was no way around it that I had to face those things.
Yeah.
And, you know, like you said about, you know, visiting your dad, you know, I looked back and said, geez, I only spent, you know, X amount of days with my mom before she passed away. And when I narrowed it down even more is that each of those days, I only spent 30 minutes with her or 45 minutes with her. So in totality, like those, I don't know, 15 days during the year, it was only like 3 hours out of
Yeah.
out of many hours during the year. So I mean, you can really go granular like that and make you feel really, really
Oh
bad.
yeah, I did that exercise, and you're making me feel guilty all over again. All those emotions from January when I did this last year is like washing onto me right now. Maybe that's a finance thing, because I definitely dabble in finance a lot too.
yeah.
You know, kind of like breaking it down to the unit economics. So
Yes.
we should definitely ask the listeners if they do the same thing. Maybe we're just the weird ones. Yeah, but that's incredible to be able to do that, because it puts into stark contrast and gives you a lot of context on like how you're allocating time. And you said it so well. Time is a thing that you can never like buy back. And so I love that you're on this journey, and I love that you have this epiphany. And I also love that you stated that it's never too late. I agree. I mean, I don't think it's too late either. I mean, I told my mom I wanted to do this consulting thing to kind of restructure my life. And she told me it was a crazy idea. She's like, you have a great job at a great tech company. Just like keep working and move your way up like everybody else. And I told her, I was like, oh, I'm not calling for permission. I'm calling to tell you, Mom, I'm 40 years old. And
I mean, you mentioned that, and it's funny that I think about that. You know, my parents always wanted what's best for my brothers and I. Wanted to take the safe route, so that's why, you know, my parents encouraged me to go in university. They said either go into economics, accounting, or computer science. And I chose accounting. And they just wanted me to take like the safe route. Now, if they were here, I would have said, you know, if they knew that I was starting my own thing, and they would say, you know, why don't you just get a job somewhere else? I would say to them, yeah, but you left your jobs and moved halfway around the world for something that was that you really valued, and what you valued was a better life for me and my brothers. So I'm kind of like doing the same thing.
Oh wow, that's beautiful. That's very beautiful, and that's an absolute analogy. That's absolutely right, and it's absolutely accurate. The skin is different, but the intention is exactly the same. Yeah, it's beautiful, man. I love that. John, let me switch gears a little bit and ask you some of my rapid fire questions. So I like to ask every guest, so there's some symmetry to this. Let's jump right into it. What advice do you have for other parents and soon to be parents?
Geez, that's a rapid fire question. I would say enjoy the moment. It can be hard. You know, especially if you're a new parent, you don't know what's going on, you don't know what's happening. But, you know, as much as you can, enjoy the moment, because as soon as you know it, your son or daughter will be 14, and you'll never buy back that time.
I'm going to cancel all the rest of my meetings and go hang out with my kids immediately. Oh my gosh, that was so beautiful.
I should say enjoy the time and be present.
Yeah. I just posted a Instagram reel, because they, you know, Instagram does this thing where they show you like last year's and 2 years and 3 years ago. It's so amazing. I mean,
it is.
I hate that they do that, but like I was just like, oh my god, they were like, I can't remember the time. They can't believe how cute they were, and like, you know, cuddly and squishy they were. And I'm like, now they're like gross, you know. Like,
so as I said, my daughter turned 10 today, and my Google Home was showing pictures from like the past 10 years of the same day.
Oh wow, so amazing, right? Yeah, it does go very fast. Okay, let me switch gears. So if you can go back and tell yourself one thing before having kids, what would you tell yourself?
Geez, that's a good one. I would say be patient. Be patient. Nice. Kids are going to be kids. They don't know what's going to happen. They don't know anything about the world.
You strike me as a very patient man. Are you not patient as a father?
I am to a degree, but I think my the meter from patient to non-patient moves very fast.
Yeah.
When I was younger.
Yeah.
Again, like it's just, I think it was just for me learning like how to be a parent, how to handle like stressful situations with a child that doesn't understand anything.
Stressful. It's so stressful. I have no patience as a parent. I feel like I'm such a good leader in work, and then I try to lead my kids, and I just lose it. Yeah, it's like so impossible.
Yes,
Yeah, it's
it
just
is.
so incredibly hard.
It is.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, so another question I have for you is what's the next one? Oh man, I'm blanking on my questions. That's terrible. Let me just go to the fun ones. Okay,
Sure.
so a favorite book. Do you have a favorite book that you like to read or that you recommend?
Favorite book. There is this one book that I have in the back here. It's called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield.
Wait, The Art of War? Oh wait, no, you
No.
said Stephen Pressfield. The War of Art. Oh, cool.
And
what's it about?
Yeah, it's by an author called Stephen Pressfield. He's a writer. He wrote a screenplay. Wrote a screenplay that really got him famous called, is it the Legend of Bagger Vance, like the Matt Damon golfing movie?
Oh,
But
okay.
anyways,
Yeah.
Yes. So anyways, it's a very easy read, but it's supposed to be aimed for creatives in, how do you show up and be a professional in your creative life. But it can apply to like anything. And this book really helped me over the past few years. And I think,
wow.
Yeah. So I would say, and I've dog-eared the heck out of it. I've highlighted it. I think this is probably one book.
Yeah, I can't wait to read it.
And he was a guest on Joe Rogan and a couple of other podcasts. So yeah, really insightful if you wanted to check that out too.
Yeah, absolutely do. I didn't realize he was so well known either. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I feel really remiss for not knowing that book. That's great. Thank you for sharing. It's my favorite question because I always get a really good book list going every year because of all the guests recommending books. And then what do you do for fun when you're not being a super dad or turning a chapter on being a more present and time focused dad and building out your fractional CFO business? What do you do for fun?
I love, you see those cameras behind me? I'm really into cameras and photography.
You are?
Yeah, so I really like taking portraits and street photography. I think they help me with a couple of things. One is just, with street photography at least, it gets me outside. So walking around, and so for some people like golf. I like street photography. It sort of gets me exercise, but also helps me to be a good observer of moments. What's interesting, what's not, what could be light, what could be fun, and with the portrait part of photography, it helps me build that connection with people, because it's not just taking a nice looking picture. For me, it's like, how do I build this connection with this person that I'm taking a picture with? How do I speak to them? How do I make them feel comfortable? How do I make them feel sad, depending on what type of picture I want to make? And I think that really helps me to be a better listener and communicator and observer in my family life and also at work as well.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I will tell you that a lot of the best leaders that I've ever had, it's only my experiential data around this, right? So it's not like a proven study, but they've been artists. Like a lot of like musicians or artists or that kind of like creative types have proven to be incredible leaders. High levels of EQ and empathy and communication and understanding.
I think it just gives you that extra bit of skill to look at a problem differently and to try to just think about creative solutions to it. That is kind of out of the box. Yeah,
beautiful. And then to bring us home, let me ask you a hot topic question that we're now incorporating into my rapid fire. There's this whole movement going around right now about unschooling. And there's been the big rise in people doing homeschool because the school system is structured in such a way that was useful during the Industrial Revolution, but it's not proving to be as useful now, especially with the new modern age. And so I just want to know what your thoughts are on that. Like, which side do you stand on? Do you have an opinion? Any comments or thoughts around it?
Right. I mean, I certainly see the strains on the public school system.
Yeah.
I think whether it's in Canada or the US, I would assume it's very similar. Overcrowding, underfunded. And for me, when our kids were born, my wife and I, we talked about, what school, like how should we raise them and how do we teach them and educate them?
Mm-hmm.
So when they were younger, we put them through a Montessori school.
Nice.
For the first few years, and it was great. It was a very different experience of learning, but it was something that really resonated with us. And after that, we put them into private school. I think just the chances and opportunities that they provide is just vastly different from a public system.
What do you mean, like the chances of the statistics of success, or what do you mean chances of?
Well, maybe not success, but just opportunities of learning.
Oh,
yeah. So when I remember when it's kindergarten, we enrolled our son into kindergarten into a private school, and they gave us an outline of the provincial learning requirements that a kid should have going into kindergarten. And one of the questions I remember is that they need to know how to count to 20. And I thought, well, my son knows like way more than that.
Yeah, like 100. Yeah,
but again, I totally understand that. They have to focus the education system on like a very general, broad-based population.
It's variant-based. Yeah. You know this. You're a finance guy.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to follow the bell curve. It's the
exactly
the slag on the bell curve. Yeah.
But with that, the kids that are probably above that, they would be held back.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely,
which is why we put our kids into private school, because it gives them that opportunity for better opportunities for learning. And again,
Beautiful.
I totally understand that's like a privileged position, but sort of going back full circle to what I talked about earlier, putting all that time and effort into building a career, being able to provide that financial stability for my family. I think that's one of the
benefits of
outcomes,
working hard and depositing
that.
in that bucket. Yeah, absolutely, man. I love it.
Yeah. So where are your kids in education?
They're in public school. And I've considered a lot more recently doing homeschooling. I definitely I just did a podcast episode about this the other month about the realization that I don't actually even believe in our college system anymore. Like to the point where like I'm like researching the crap out of this, right? I just like I'm starting to get very opinionated on it, and I haven't finalized my opinion making because I'm still doing research, but it just seems like an antiquated infrastructure, our education system, and it served its purpose and it doesn't serve its new purpose. And I think doing private school makes sense. I can see how that could be a good variant to it, like an adaptation of the needs and kind of a hybrid model. But for me, it's like I almost want to think about it from like first like principle thinking. Or a zero-based budgeting, or however you want to however you want to talk about it. But like I can use finance lingo or operations lingo if you want. But when I think about things in a first principle thing, I moved my family from San Francisco to Texas to change my lifestyle and change the way that it completely directs. And so it's the same thing with education. Once I like figure out what I want to do and how I think about it, I'll probably take a very drastic approach to it. And I'm leaning much more towards the fact that our school systems need to change very, very drastically, and it doesn't work. Yeah.
I mean, I would have thought the school system would have changed because of COVID, but
you would think they would take that opportunity to change.
But it just seems like it's just so entrenched into a traditional way of teaching and learning that even a global pandemic is not going to change.
Can't unearth it.
But again, I think there's just so many more opportunities for learning, and in this world now, that it's not just after high school, then it's like university. There's college, there's technical school, there's self-learning, whatever.
Self-learning is a huge thing coming up, right? I think it's been so powerful to see that. And I've also seen a lot with like, just hypothesizing what's going to happen with like the future digitization and AI. Like just thinking about what are the skills that will matter, trying to do the causality, the economics of like, oh, if this happens, then this should happen. If that happens, this should happen. And like, the more I think about it, the less this stuff seems to matter, and different
Right.
skills start to rise, in my opinion.
Yes.
And so it kind of goes back to the whole original question of like, oh, so what's the benefit of this? And is that actually preparing my kids to be the most, opportunistic or capable in this new climate?
Right.
And I don't know yet. I'm still figuring it out, but I'll
Yeah.
definitely let you know when I make my final opinion.
Thanks.
But I'm definitely veering hard towards the school system not being as vital to their success as I used
Right.
to. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean,
Is it?
again, yeah, I think so. I mean, like everyone wants what's best for their kids.
Yeah.
And again, if there is a better path outside of the traditional path, then then take it.
Yeah. Try it. Right.
Yeah.
The
try
iterative
it.
approach. It's probably
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So something that you're very akin to, having gone through a startup grow up phase. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, for sure.
Very good. John, I'm so grateful for this time. You are a wonderful man and a wonderful thinker,
Thank you.
and an incredible father to take the leap of faith for your family and trying to provide something different for them and having the courage to do so. I commend you for that, and thank you for sharing your story and journey with us here. And
Thanks.
appreciate the time you took out of your day to do this.
No, thanks for having me. This is great. And I really love what you're doing with the podcast, and it's definitely much needed these days to try to bring the light, this blend of work and family together, because no one has the right answers, but everyone has great stories.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Yeah, talk to you soon.
Okay, bye. Thank you again for listening to The Girl Dad Show. To help our show grow, please let us know who we should interview next by filling out the form on our website or commenting below.